on itself.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It always, it always seems to be something when it comes to the video game industry these days. But in any case, we are live with a another episode of Project Console. Um, Usually I start around 7:30 Eastern Standard Time, but yeah, I took what I thought was going to be a short nap, um, but turned out to be a little bit longer than I expected. But today's episode is Nintendo's Big Mad, and but before we get into our topic, I'd like my panelist member to introduce himself.
Yo, it's me, Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters, and glad to be here.
Hey, glad to have you. So for our and this is Kenoshi about Benito, uh, creator of Project Console. But on our first topic, um, Nintendo's leaky ship. So Nintendo had a few leaks the last few weeks with first because they had a couple games come out uh, ahead of its release date, sorry, which is nothing new. So Mario Party, the new Mario Party that was leaked early, as well as Brothership, their new Super Mario RPG game, um, was leaked as about a day or so ago, as well as the big leak. The big thing that that Nintendo's mad about was that their online um, playtests that they were doing uh, got leaked, and that's something that's something they're really mad about. Uh, they set it up in such a way that wasn't like it was for press only. It was for pretty much anybody who you know was at least above the age of 18 uh, could get into this could get into this playtest. So it was pretty open ended. So it was only a matter of time before somebody decided to leak everything out. But what are your thoughts on all of this?
I mean, the people who are getting mad about it, I'm just like, and
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, it's like you knew like there's so many other things to be annoyed about with this company than that.
yeah, yeah. I just know that Nintendo is trying to go after people uh, who leaked the information, but it's pretty difficult because again, you don't have to be press to get access to this test. So it's I mean, reality is it's just how things are. You know, if you don't have a super tight chip when it comes to this stuff, people are just gonna try to make a name for themselves and put this stuff out online. But
Yeah, but people were gonna like this was gonna leak any goddamn way.
yeah,
Because the thing is, we live in a culture where there are people who like first. You know what I'm talking about. We've seen people like that. Like, have you ever gone on YouTube and you're like, oh, here's someone I really like, and you go to comment and there's just someone that doesn't have has fuck all to say, about anything pertinent to the situation. But damn it, they're going to say first.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that happens a lot, that's for sure.
So I say that to say this. If we got people doing that, first, all that shit. If we got people doing that about this shit, then I mean, come on, man. Everything else is viable.
Yeah.
So when I hear people like, "Oh, well, this," because I knew when they did the shit. There's going to be people who are going to be like, "I got early access over, you know, somebody else. Aren't
Yeah.
I special?"
Yeah.
I knew as soon as they did the shit, someone was going to do that.
Yeah. But so a couple weeks ago, Atlas, is there is there anything else you'd like to say before we move on to the next topic? Actually, before I.
No, only that nothing here is surprising.
Yeah. Anyway, a couple weeks ago, Atlas released a new game, new franchise, Metaphor ReFantasio. Um, but one of the things about the game that Atlas was really proud of was that the game sold over 1 million copies. Now the thing is, if this was any other company, they were releasing any other like Ubisoft or Square Enix or anything like that, and they were selling a relatively big budget game, and they got the news that they only sold 1 million copies of a new IP, they would be crying. They'd be like, "This
Yeah,
game's an absolute failure. It's over
yeah.
for this franchise." So
Fire half that studio.
yeah, yeah,
Fire half
exactly.
that studio. They're a failure.
Yeah,
I mean, we know these people moved away and went to another city or state or country, but fuck those people. They're a failure.
yeah,
Eat shit and die.
yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. So I just thought that was pretty funny. Um,
I
see that
mean,
last week.
it is funny in an ironic kind of way.
Yeah,
Not a, oh, well, this is the future of gaming. The thing is that, well, this segues into my free topic, so I'm going to leave it alone.
oh, okay.
I'm not going to talk about it until I get to, you know.
But I just love how a game that's uses I mean, it definitely looks fine for what it is, but isn't necessarily like this amazingly graphical showcase game. All it is it's a game with decent, with pretty good uh, turn-based JRPG mechanics,
Yeah,
um, pretty decent story, pretty decent characters,
yeah.
and it's just like the same engine they've probably been using since like
Persona
Persona 5.
5, which
Yeah,
is which is a refinement of the engine they use for Persona 4.
yeah,
Um, well, I mean, the difference is that this, like, Atlas has always reused engines. Because if you
yeah,
go back to the Wii era, which was the seventh gen, yeah, that was the seventh gen. And they basically released on the Wii. They released the two Trauma Team games, and those
yeah,
games, like, those are one of my favorite games that Atlas released in that generation, like over Persona, because Persona is very niche. They were like a fun, like, surgery simulator game. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm enjoying this. This is a fun game. And those games, if you look at the engine in those games, use the same engine from 6th gen Persona games, like the ones where um, the overworld map was an icon moving around on a flat 2D surface, and then when you went into a location, you might have your avatar running around the location, or it might be a first-person dungeon crawler, and then you run into demons and all that type of shit. So they were doing that back then.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if they're doing that shit back then, like when I hear people come up to me and tell me, yeah, of course, like you know, and uh, their metaphor game is basically it's basically they took the engine for Persona 5 and they said let's do something different. But it's not like they had to, they probably had to do very little, just a few like assets they had to remake. They probably have an engine that lets them make new monsters and shit. And the Persona games reuse a lot of monsters.
Yeah.
Like Pixie's gonna be Pixie's gonna be Pixie, you know?
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
not really gonna change all that much.
Yeah.
So of course it's not gonna be that expensive to remake the shit. It's like the difference. Think of it like this, okay? Let's say that you have to write uh, 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 you have to fill out a form. It's easier for you to use a template than to write that shit all out yourself.
Yeah, like the fairy that follows you around is obviously based off the pixie design from
Yeah.
from the other
Well, I
game.
haven't played
So,
it yet. I bought it, but
oh,
I take your word for it.
oh, okay.
You get what I'm saying? It's like people just you know. But imagine if that was like if that was any other company. That's like when Square Enix like, oh, this game sold to 10 million units. It's a failure. I'm like, what? How?
Yeah. One of the greatest stories of all time, in my opinion, was back during the 2013 Tomb Raider era, when that game sold over 6 million, and Square Enix came out. Yeah, this game's a financial flop. It's a failure. It's like you're sitting back and wondering, man, there are indie companies that give their left arm to be able to sell 6 million copies of their game. Wow, what's going on here?
Yeah. I mean, it was embarrassing. It's like, for real? This is
Uh,
the world we're living in.
yeah, unfortunately. Uh, um. So apparently, a few days ago, Spider-Man 2 got announced for PC. Uh,
To no one's surprise.
it's no one's surprise, but the
No one
time.
was surprised by that. If you were, I don't know what to say to you except, wow, you are gullible.
Yeah. Nobody wants to hear this on on the Sony side of things, PlayStation fanboys, but there will come a day, probably closer, probably more so in the near future than in the distant future, where a big single party PlayStation game, single player PlayStation game will come out day and date. We've seen that with a couple of their big multiplayer games. I think we're going to see that with their single player games in the near future because the time between the turnaround for PlayStation uh, single player games like Spider Man 2 are starting to get a little bit shorter. So,
Well,
between the console release to the PC release.
I mean, when you're spending like the base to make the base game, you're spending like $500 million. That's just to make the game, and then you're spending another 200 to 300 million to market it. Let's say after everything's said and done, almost $1 billion for one game, and it's a console exclusive. and it underperforms. Because here's what Sony doesn't tell you: most of their first-party console exclusives underperform.
Yeah.
Only The Last of Us and Uncharted sold a lot of games. Uh, those Horizon games didn't sell that well.
No.
Okay. Ah, man, I feel so sorry for the studio that makes those games.
Yeah,
I don't. I'm being
they're
facetious.
oh yeah, yeah, but they're the two games that came out. Their lunch was eaten by Breath of the Wild, and then again by Elden Ring. So
Yeah.
they
So
couldn't catch
basically,
a break.
Japanese studios kept on running up and kicking them in the nuts.
Pretty much,
It's
that's
like,
what happened.
oh, some guy's like, man, I'm free and clear. I'm free and clear. I made it out of medical debt. Everything's gonna be okay. I don't think so. Yoinks! Oh, you punched me in the groin. Boy, did you punch me in the nuts? And they run
Yeah.
away. That's the game. That's how gaming is. Kind of
Yep.
sad, but the way I feel about it is, fuck them. I mean, no, look, um, when you're spending, like, these games are going for photorealism, which means more time and energy. Even if you have even if you're just using server farms and development or workstation PCs to do the hard and AI scripting routines, uh, you know, in order to you know shorten the work and do a lot of the up-resing for these assets, that's still that's a lot of energy being used. That's a lot of and a human being still has to go over that shit and make sure that it's not too literal.
Yeah.
And its translations of that data. So, and those instructions. So even with all that being said, you still are spending more money to make these games, and time and energy literally, like, because server farms are expensive. Gaming,
Yeah.
a work PC is expensive. To run a business computer that just does transactions, maybe a little bit of internet surfing, business to business, business to consumer type interactions. That's not heavily powered. That's not a heavily power draining utility. If you have a workstation PC or a gaming PC, people will tell you that shit draws a lot of power.
Yeah.
So now that's just one person. Imagine you have a building, 4 floors, 5 floors, 6 floors. Everybody's got PCs like that, and they're always on. Plus, they have a server, in-house server, that's drawing even more power that they offload some tasks to while they're working on other shit.
Yeah.
People don't
Yeah.
think about that. And then people aren't going home. They aren't working an 8 or 10 hour or 12-hour day. People are staying there 14, 15, 16 hours.
Yeah.
Maybe even all night.
Yeah. All that stuff gets turned off.
And it never gets turned off. Yeah. And
Yeah.
then one machine breaks that had the stuff, and people forgot to save it. So it automatically saves every, like, 2-3 hours, but they had a breakthrough. They had a crunch session. So now they got to go back and
Several
redo,
hours of work. Yeah.
redo 2-3 days of work.
Yeah.
That's the shit we have to. So yes, there's a reason that all these Western style companies, these AAA games, putting all this money and resources in for photorealism is untenable.
Yeah.
It's literally the snake eating itself, you know. And gamers are like, but gamers are starting to revolt because Sony announced their PlayStation Pro, and gamers are like, no, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
your
like
big thing is that you're showing me a re-release of a game running on hardware, running that just came out 4 years ago.
yeah, that's weird. Yeah. Why would you do? Yeah. Exactly. It's like you're literally re-releasing Horizon Zero Dawn, an HD remake of that game.
Yeah, but the jump in fidelity isn't enough to make it worth people's
What they did was raise the price of the original one, so that people couldn't get a deal on buying the original game and getting a lower price
yeah,
on the HD re. It's like what the
because it used to be if you paid $20, 19.99, and on for the PS4 version, you could like pay like a $10 um thing, and you would get a better version on the PS5. They got
right?
rid of that deal, so now it's 39.99.
Yeah,
That's some Sony shit right there. That is
yeah,
some fucked up Sony shit. But that's Sony for you. Sony, like these Sony fanboys, Sony is great. Is it?
yeah.
Because I don't think Sony is great.
They're definitely not what they used to be. That's for sure.
I don't think they were that great back in the day. I damn sure don't think they're great now. Everyone's like, oh man, Sony's amazing. I'm like, for who?
Mm.
For gamers? I would say for most of the PS1, half of the PS2 generation, Sony was great. After that, Sony has been kind of like, meh.
Yeah, for me, this isn't necessarily super popular opinion, but I think the PS3 was just it was significantly a step backwards.
Oh yeah, no, that's I share that. I too share that opinion. I think that, like I said, I think the PS1 when Sony was supporting Japanese studios, even though as a Nintendo fan, what they did was basically monopolize the Japanese uh, genres for the PlayStation. But if you had a PlayStation, you had an array of different styles of games and genres to come into that system. Plus, it could play CDs. The PS2 was the same for like 2/3 of its life cycle. Plus, it could play DVDs. Then the
Yeah,
PS3 comes out, and Sony becomes very westernized, and they're like they stop supporting Japanese studios, and you stop getting those quirky Japanese style games. Like, okay, if Sony had the same mindset for the PS3, for the PS1 and PS2 that they had for the PS3, you would have never gotten Ape Escape.
yeah,
You would have never gotten Spyro the Dragon. You would have never gotten Jack and Daxter. You would have never gotten um, Ratchet and Clank.
yeah,
You would have never gotten those games. They never would have existed
yeah,
because the PS3 generation began. We're gonna chase the Dude Bros. Shit, Dude Bros buy 4 or 5 games a year, if that.
yeah,
Call of Duty, Battlefield, a Madden, maybe a soccer or boxing game, and then a party game, and that's it.
yeah,
And they play those games.
yeah.
So I'm seeing these people. I'm like, oh man, it's got to do this. I'm like,
Yeah, when they and it's like they could have picked the bet. It seems like they picked the best timing to announce the PS5 too, when we're the way the economy is. It's like, we're gonna charge you $700 for this freaking thing. It's like, how about you just put that money into making better games? Like, that's what people really want. Or
that's
games
called.
people have been asking for years.
They're not going to do that. They have no incentive. See, the thing about Sony is that they have no incentive. There's no incentive
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there is no
because as long as
incentive.
people continue to buy those games, they have no incentive to do anything else. Oh, what? Why should we make better games? Why the fuck would you expect us to make better games?
Yeah. But the sad thing about the PS5 Pro, um, is that it's gonna sell a lot within the first couple of months because, you know, there's enough Sony diehard fans out there where they'll sell like 2-3 million copy the units of the PS5 Pro, and you know they're
Yeah,
gonna ride around talking about
but
how
the thing
the
is,
PS5 Pro.
yeah,
Go
but the
ahead.
thing is, Sony wants the PS5 Pro to reach at least like 33%, maybe 50% of the people who have PlayStation 5s, and it's not going to happen.
No, that's not gonna
Like, it's
happen.
not going to happen. Like, it's like someone saying, hey, oh, you're perfectly good microwave that has a great popcorn function, great reheat function, reheats pizza and doesn't make it too hot, too cold, gets at the right temperature, and then just stops. And if it's got a crispy crust, it cooks it so that the crust doesn't get soggy. And if it's got a non-crispy crust, it cooks it so that it doesn't like get all mushy. Yeah, we got all that. Well, we are gonna discontinue supporting that microwave. We're gonna give you a new microwave that's gonna have less features and cost more. How is that a deal? Fuck you. That's the
Mm.
deal. That's Sony. It's like, hey, wait, what?
Yeah, that's great. That's crazy. But in any case, you got any free topics before we
Oh, yeah, yeah.
call?
Here's my free topic. Um, have people? Here's my my free topic. Has anyone noticed that all these big companies are firing people because their games aren't selling? Sony, Microsoft, EA, Activision. Well, Activision is Microsoft now. Ubisoft. They're all like, we gotta bend. Nintendo's like, yeah, we're opening up new studios. We're hiring people.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And here's the reason why. Some people will say it's because Nintendo makes better games. I think that's a subjective thing. What we can look at is how they run their business, which is very objective. Okay, Nintendo budgets their games like even like except for Breath of the Wild, which was a AAA game for Nintendo. That was over 100 million to make that game. Most of Nintendo's games are like AA, single A. Their budgets are kept under control. The hardware that they made their games on, while it is old as fuck and not up to task for most things, it's old technology. So they don't have to spend a lot of money using it.
Yeah.
So yeah, a game can sell 15, can sell 1.5, 2, 3 million and be profitable. Hell, if a game scratches a million, it's already profitable. Hell, Nintendo has some games. If they sell 500,000, it's profitable. It's like,
Yeah.
oh, it sold over 500,000. It made its budget back, and everything over like at 300,000, it made its budget. 300,000 at $50 a pop, it made. I want to say 15 million. Yeah, 15 million. 15 million. Okay, we only spent like 2-3 million to make this game.
Yeah.
So everything above that 3 million mark was profit, and we distributed it digitally, which means all that money comes back to us.
Yeah.
That's called good business sense versus, all these other companies that are just doing whatever bullshit they want to do. And then get mad when you call them out on it. It's like, this doesn't make sense. Fuck you. It's like, but this legit does not make sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, that was my free topic. I'll talk more about it next week. Sorry, tomorrow when I have my BS Buster cast. So yeah, it's gonna be some good stuff. Anything you wanna? Anything you wanna? Any free topic you wanna talk about?
Yeah. The delusional part of me wants to believe that with the success of ReFantasio and the reality, the delusional part of me wants to believe that a lot of these big AAA corporations will finally wake up and realize we don't need to make games look as realistic as possible. Not all the time, and
No.
we can make a lower budget game with as long as it has the really good mechanics, really good characters, and really good story. We don't need to worry about moving 850 million units. That's not going to happen. They're just going to keep doing the same thing until they're dust. They're
Well,
going to keep doing
because
the
it's
same thing until they're
become it.
dust.
Well, I mean that's a part of it, but it's also that it's become a habit, and
Yeah.
habits are a hard thing to break.
Yeah.
Like
Gotta keep doing it.
if yeah, it's like a drug addict.
Yeah.
If a drug addict is addicted to, you know, smoking whatever their drug of choice is, if they're addicted to that, they're addicted. They're an addict. They have to do that, or it's not. Life isn't worth living for them.
Yeah.
And that's the world we live in now. I mean, it's sad, but you know, like, and not to mention everyone's saying that all these people being fired were having a crash. Apparently, it's not a crash. Like you said earlier, I heard this from games journalists. This is a correction. The levels of people who are actually working in the video game industry is back to what it was in 2020,
Yeah. They over
2019.
they
Yeah, they
overhired.
hired. Yeah, they hired a lot of people during the pandemic, thinking, oh, all these people who are staying home will always be staying home playing video games, which is kind of unrealistic, but whatever.
Also, it wasn't just that. It was also they were hiring as much talent as possible, stealing up as much talent off the market as possible to
So other people, yeah, to deny it
what
from other people getting in.
exactly, yeah. That was another thing that was going on.
It's
But
like,
yeah, it's still a mess though. It still sucks to see a bunch of people lose their jobs.
yeah, yeah, people, especially like I said, people moved, went to other places, and you got people saying, oh, well, you know, what you do isn't valuable. Fuck you. That's basically what's going on.
Yeah,
Sad but true.
yeah, yeah. Well, who wants to bet that they're just hiring? They're firing some of these people, some of these programmers, or some of these developers, and then just rehiring other people for cheaper. So
Yeah,
we don't need to.
that's standard. That's standard operating procedure in capitalism.
Yeah, yeah. It's like instead of instead of paying $150,000 for these set of programmers, 150K a year for these set of programmers, um, like 150K each, we can just fire these people and hire new programmers that'll be perfectly fine with say 70 to 80K each. It's like,
Yeah,
welcome to the industry. Oh man.
yeah,
Anything else?
yeah.
Oh,
No, that was it. I was just
oh,
gonna. That was my. That was my particular free topic. I thought that it was just kind of interesting that they're just firing people. And everyone's like, oh, well, I'm like, look, I hate to break this to you, but, you know, and no one should have to do this. This is an unnecessary. it didn't have to be this way. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's true. But in any case, anything else you'd like to bring up before we close out the show? Anything you'd like to pimp out?
Yeah, this is Mr. Red Fox, owner proprietor of BS Busters. We did not have a cast last week because shit happened, but this week we're gonna definitely have a cast, and that's gonna be fun. We're gonna be talking about all types of fun shit, mostly video game related stuff. Although we might talk about scary ass video games too, legit
Yeah.
scary video games, and not just some bullshit. So with that being said, that's it. I got nothing else to pimp out.
Okay. Well, this is Kanoshi Abominita here at the Project Console. Bulk of my content creation is on Project Open Mic with music. I do I do music stuff over there. It The latest song I have up is Into the Fog We Go. So check that out when you get a chance, and we will see you whenever. We'll see you probably in the next couple weeks. Um, have a good week. Have a good weekend, and have a good life. See you guys later.